All right. Hi, Kaleidoscope. It's Alexa here, and I have hanging out with me two beautiful, magical souls that I've had the wonderful opportunity to get to meet on a couple of occasions, who I follow very closely on all my social media because of the light and bright, shining light that they are an embodiment of what it means to be a very conscious couple. And I'm hanging out with them now because I want to shine and shed a light on what they do for everybody else that's in the group, because they are also active members in the Kaleidoscope. And because, the thing is that in the Kaleidoscope, we get into sex, love, and relationships. And primarily we get into all of the kinks and the squeaks and the tantrics and all of that stuff regarding sex and people's hangups regarding sex. And then we talk about shame, and we talk so many different aspects of sex. But then we also, sometimes forget the rest of it is the love and relationships part. And every now and then we go into relationships. And when we go into relationships, it's typically trying to figure out, what is the alternative? What is it about? How do people operate in that alternative space as far as relationships and things go? But we don't really get into anything more than that. You know what I mean? And we talk about love and things like that as well. And the thing is that I want to touch on this whole relationship thing specifically is that no matter if we're talking about traditional, quote unquote, monogamous, people who were married kind of relationships, or we're talking about, these big polyamorous tribes, or we're talking about, any varying degree of relationships that incorporate two people or more than two people. It doesn't matter how you choose to live your life. If you don't do it consciously, if you don't do it when you're paying attention and you're very self-aware, and you have a disregard for proper means of communication, you're not really feeling like your highest self, it doesn't really matter what you choose, because if you don't do it with, with a very conscious air about it, chances are you're not getting the best that you can out of it, and you might even be hurting yourself and others in the process. So what I would love to do is open up the floor for Tera and AJ Maxwell to share all about what they have going on. They run these incredible retreats, and they're just doing very magical, soul-filled things in the world. So hi guys, I know that was a bit of an intro there, but please, please, please share with the Kaleidoscope. I want to give you guys some beautiful space that you can share what you guys are up to.
Should just share. I mean, first of all, we're both coaches. I'm an affluence coach, leadership coach, and we've been merging and the feminine and masculine and sharing that with others, and really talking about how do you step into that highest version of yourself. So a lot of my work around affluence, creating affluence from a place of ease and flow, it's about living on purpose. And so we're living here in Costa Rica. We have beautiful home. Look, if you could see back there, there's the ocean and Pacific Ocean, just this magical life. And it wasn't always that way. I mean, we had a good life, but we were back in the East Coast, and especially in our marriage. We've been together 20 years. We actually came from a very conservative background, and we're going to wind back earlier. I have a very crazy story. I don't know if we'll get to all of that. Conservative Mormon. And so it was like we were great partners and friends and raising our kids together and everything, but we were settling in our marriage. And so as we were building our company and everything, I was like, I teach around this stuff. Like, affluence isn't just about money. It's about all areas of our life, right? And the way you do one thing, it's the way you do everything. Mm-hmm. And so it became apparent that I was being a hypocrite when it came to our love life and that we were settling. So I would say over the past 2 years, then it was like, this is where I needed to up level. This is where, and so we have torn apart everything, challenged all the beliefs. We've just the most radical honesty, saying things 20 years, never shared about fantasies, never shared about what I wanted, like even kissing. I mean, nothing. They haven't talked about any of that stuff. And so part of the journey for me was an awakening, and it was through sexual healing. It was through a 30-minute G-spot integration that I connected to higher self, and it was this path that actually I stepped away from the church of my upbringing, and I learned that there was more. It's really about living in that expansive zone. And so our sexual relationship about the two of us together, we've developed this whole process around conscious coupling. And so the G-spot integration is a piece of it. So everyone wants to think about that. It's a piece of it. It's also releasing the blocks on a cellular level, all the shame, and but it's connecting to that highest version of ourselves.
So there's so many varying degrees of this conscious coupling, or conscious. And I mean, it's cool that you point out that it happened to you after 20 years. You know what I mean? Because some people, when you hear conscious coupling, you think, well, then that must mean like a single that's getting coupled, not necessarily something that would apply to me because I've been with Joe for, 20 years, that kind of vibe. So it's something that you can put into your life no matter where you are on that journey.
Yeah. And a big piece, do you want to talk about the shared, the first part about conscious coupling is having that shared vision. And that is important whether you're in a monogamous relationship, whether it's polyamorous. Like when you really are clear on what your vision is, it's sort of the glue in the pathway that allows us the framework that, we've had some really tough times. So I'm going to say it hasn't been all magical. It's also been
right.
Ego,
like walking through it, right? Because we've been walking through the fire, like challenging everything. But because we have that shared vision of what we're creating.
It's amazing. It's really, it becomes a container. When you really create a vision that's bigger than both of you, it creates this container where it becomes less about, holding someone else accountable than just seeing where you're going, and then being able to ask each other powerful questions, right? Tera would ask me, how does this fit into our vision? And I sometimes I wouldn't respond to her, but it was a powerful question that I could then go back and go, how does this fit into the vision? It actually doesn't fit into my ego or my whatever it was. And so that was a powerful piece for us, is that shared vision.
It's a vibration. And I hear a lot of, especially from women, they're like, oh, I wish my husband was like your husband or whatever, because they want to, step into that next version of themselves. And it's like, no, you lock into your vision and you enroll your partner in that vision. Or even if they're not enrolled, you hold that vibration and have that clarity, because people are either going to match and they're going to come along, or they're going to fall away. And either way, you got to be okay with that. And so that's another piece of it, is in going through the fires, but also being okay that we can take these steps, and the person that we love may decide they don't vibe with it, and you have to be okay with that too. And that's that can be a scary place to be.
Yeah.
But you have to be like that unattachment.
Well,
yes.
One of the things that was really powerful, and just kind of bring it to a point, is part of our vision is to live an extraordinary life. And what Tera talked about, not talking about our fantasies, right? As we continue to up level in all these different areas of our life, I it was like, I don't know, 8 months ago.
Yes, my deepest fantasy.
Well, I said,
fantasy.
and we were really up leveling it in our sex life. It was, going off the charts, but it was really, there's pieces there that I really was in the dark, just finding my own way. And so, and part of it was fear of hearing what's going to come back, right? What are your fantasies, right? It sounds exciting and fun, but all of a sudden, as soon as it doesn't include you, you're like, whoa, what? Right? It changes the
right. The person sitting across from you seems like a completely different person for just a brief moment, and it is incredibly seducing and sometimes soul shaking at the same time, because when your person that you love winds up looking in a different light, when they embody something else or they show you a different facet of themselves, for some people will take it as a personal offense, like, I thought I knew you. And others will look at it as a way of, wow, it's like a brief moment of, you can look at your person and think you're someone I'd have an affair with. but it's really the person that you're with. You know what I mean? It's like a really interesting dynamic is when the person that you love shows you a side of themselves that they've never shown you before, but not to take it personally, but to instead use it as a means to continue continue the bond, or I think that you can gather what I'm saying there. When you see your partner in a different light, it's pretty attractive.
Well, I think for me, it was so grounding when we got through the fantasies, which was really exciting and actually erotic, and there were pieces I'm like, hey, where's AJ in this fantasy? But all of that, really, at the end of it, I felt so grounded with Tera. It's like I just breathed in all of her, And for me, it was a powerful lesson, always tapping into the fears and, pushing into your fears, because on the other side of it is really our dream life, if you have the guts.
Greater love.
Yeah, greater love.
And greater love, because I think that's one of the other things. I don't know if we'll go so much into it's, we say that we love each other when you're in a relationship, but actually there's all these conditions.
Right.
We don't say because, well, if I said this, will he leave me? Or will he, think I'm a slut? Or whatever it is, right? And so when you can really have that level of honesty and just really be part of the premise of conscious coupling is embodying our authentic self, embodying our higher self. And so it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm so passionate about this because, especially for so many, maybe those of us in Kaleidoscope that we're here to make a big impact in the world. And I see so many women, especially, that like we hit a plateau, and there's things like, for me, I had so many self-sabotaging patterns. And when I was growing my company, I had a measure of success, but then there was something that was keeping me from that next, doubling the income. And so the conscious coupling and the clearing of the deepest shame and blocks and on a cellular level, followed by the G-spot integration and connecting to higher self, it just catapulted me. Because when we're in higher self, we are unstoppable because we are in our divine, right?
That's where
absolutely
Nova. For me, it really illuminated her as this amazing supernova.
That's beautiful. So my main question I think that I have right now is that, say people want to work with you and some of the coaching and the practices, and I know that I'm going to dance around it because I know that that's the main thing that people were probably really interested in so far. If they're hearing that is the G-spot integration, they keep saying G-spot integration, and you're not watching me go, what's a G-spot integration? Because I want to give that its own little section there. But, if people want to work with you, or, you're hosting something, workshop or retreat or something like that, what are the steps that you have to take first before you get to the part where, what people might think is the good stuff, so you can do that transcendental moment of integrating and all of that? If you could give me a rundown, what happens up to that point, and then maybe a little taste of what happens after?
Are you talking about in general or in conscious coupling?
Well, in general, before you would get to a point where you want to do the G-spot massage, as from your perspective as coaches and how you navigate through that.
Usually, we have clients, they come into our tribe, the Freedom Collective, where we start just releasing blocks. My gift is identifying and getting to the root of blocks because I had so much. And so the conscious coupling is graduate level work. It's stepping into higher self. So it's not for everyone. It's for game changers that are really ready to take this. It's deep, deep work. And so most of our tribe, we start with Freedom Collective. They come in. It's a group where we have monthly energy calls, and from that place they can see what they resonate with, and it's really it's a low entry point.
Yeah.
It's a really high vibe tribe, and then we have a group program, Affluent Life Academy, where we release blocks on a weekly basis because there's a lot of stuff that we can work on energetically. And it's shifting that internal programming. So
right.
My gift is when you're aligned energetically with what you desire, it happens. And and it's not showing up, it's because there's some block there. So that's what we do. And what happened, I think for me, because I had been doing this work for so long, clearing blocks on a daily basis and everything, And yet there was still something that was from that next, that next big.
Something preventing you from the next big breakthrough or the next big transcendental moment, or.
Yeah. And so that's how we birthed conscious coupling, because that was my journey.
Yeah.
That was both of our
Can I-
journeys. Such a difference. So yeah, so that's like the graduate level course, and then we start.
Yeah. With the Freedom Collective. But I want to ask you a question here, because if you notice, not that long ago, I asked the Kaleidoscope, because people started having these little mini conversations about, hey, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And then all of a sudden I said, you know what, let me just put it out here. Let me just ask the group, because everyone will get notified. Ask the group, what do you do? And the thing is that you're going to see literally all kinds of people. Now, I'm in groups, and I'm sure you might be in groups as well, where in the group, it's primarily all the same kind of people. It's all coaches, or it's all intuitives, or it's all empaths, or it's all business strategists. It's all like a particular type. But the thing is that the Kaleidoscope is all people who sex, love, or relationship.
Yeah.
That means it's everybody. That means that, there's going to be people in the group that are like, what the fuck are they talking about? Higher level integration. Fuck. Like, I have no idea. Somebody get me a drink. You know what I mean? Blocks. What do you mean blocks? Like Legos? And then there's going to be people that are totally with you, that are so, like they're totally with you. So for the sake of the group as a whole, when you say like we start working on blocks, like I know what that means. I've been working on those things in myself, because I know what I'm trying to achieve, and I know that if I don't clear the way, and I don't clear the energy, and I don't clear the space, I'm not going to be able to make the impact that I wish to make with my message and my purpose, no matter how aligned I feel. Right. You know what I mean? I know what I have to do in order to get there, and it's a daily set of skills that you have to hone in on and that you have to work on. It's one of those things that once you realize that you need to do the work, then it's an everyday kind of thing. And it's exciting though, because you know that it's at least leading you somewhere. So for the benefit of the group, when you say like, we got to do some, blockage work, or you're immediately releasing it, what is an example of a block, and what does it look like when you let it go?
So like, we'll talk about money, because money and intimacy and sex are so.
Sex, power, money. It's like braided.
And so it's like, for instance, like you could be, we'll relate this to relationship and to money. Most people I meet are not open to receiving love. They're not open to receiving unconditional love. They're not open to receiving abundance. So your experience, we are very sophisticated biocomputers. Whatever you're seeing in your life is a result of what's going on internally, what programs you're projecting out into the world. So, and this is just, if you start researching quantum physics and the unified energy field, it's just a hologram, what you're seeing outside. So when you change the internal programming, you get a different result. That's why we're here living in Costa Rica, living our dream, because we have created a new program to make that possible. And so for anyone that's watching this, if you're not open to receiving abundance, if you believe you have to work really hard to make a lot of money, if you believe you can't be spiritual and be rich, if you believe that you can't charge a certain amount for your services and that it feels yucky, or that you don't like sales, then it's going to be really hard for you to create that money flow. And so what I do is I shift. I go get to the root of those blocks. A lot of it's generational. It's stuff we inherit. We have these energetic imprints. It's so much like, you look at your computer. When you first get it, you get from the Apple store, and it's brand new. It looks awesome.
You're so excited. Then you turn it on. You're like, now what?
Woohoo! And then a couple of years later, there's like all these different, it gets like clogged up. You get all these different tools, and sometimes you get viruses and malware. Well, it's very much the same. Imagine like some program that you receive from, a parent, like, oh, you're really going to go for that job? Or you need to work like everybody else. Like what? You're going to follow your dream? That's a program. And so when you release those programs and literally update your operating system to what is truth, you'll know also, if this is new to you, if a belief feels good, it's true. If I say to you, you are the creator of your own life, and that it's time to remember who you are, and that you are powerful, you're a powerful creator, and that feels good to you, it's because it's true.
Right.
And other things don't feel good because it's not, they're just false programs that we've had. So
I love that. And I am such a fan of people who can master analogize. So your operating system thing, I was like, spot on. That's spot on, because that's something that, you know, most people can understand. And that is beautiful to say it that way, because in the way that you just got so close to the screen and the microphone, and even my eyes start to tingle. I love when people tap into flow with their words, when it just feels like they are speaking from that deep connected place where it goes from the core of who they are and through their mouth and into your soul, and it shakes it and it wakes you up and it makes you feel alive and it makes you feel significant and it makes you feel like you can take a hold of all of these things and you can be the creator of your entire life. And all it takes is action. All it takes is, well, a recognition and then action and then repetitive. And then you can absolutely recreate the whole story. The fact that you've taken all of that and then infused it into, I'm gonna have a hard time maybe figuring out the right words here, but you've taken all of that and put it into the mix of the thing that winds up meaning the most to us in the long run, our relationships. Do you know what I mean? You've infused that understanding with an aspect of our lives that for some people, their inability to work through their shit regarding themselves and relationships will have their business fall apart. Yeah. They will lose their children. They will create more hurt and pain in the world because of it. Like this is really, really big. And it's also something that as humans, we're continuously searching for that connection, that next connection. And we are, the way that we are built is to enjoy intimacy and touch and pleasure. Yeah. And so I love that you've taken what you've just mentioned and blended it with that, because even today there's so much confusion and misunderstanding with how you're supposed to do this thing called relationships.
And it's safe, like the belief, for instance, it's safe to express my truth.
Yeah.
It's safe to be intimate. It's safe to be raw and to be vulnerable. It's safe to open up my heart. So if we don't believe that's true, and I've had those blocks, I mean, part of this huge up level for us is there was parts where I didn't feel it was safe to express my truth. And
right.
So what's so beautiful about relationship is that there's this forcing function. If you're committed to your vision, yeah. And even in the world of polyamory, because then it really has that forcing function, right? About expressing truth. And so it's when you can step into that vibration, it's safe to express my truth, even if it hurts, even if it's
super duper uncomfortable.
Super uncomfortable, and then walk through the other side. It's powerful.
I love it. Okay, so now once you get through, you're starting to release those blocks. Energy is clearing, maybe more abundance in general. Maybe that's affluence, and maybe that's abundance in other areas or whatever, and you're seeing some of those shifts. Then we want to go into, I wanted to say yoni integration, but it's G-spot integration. So will you give us a little bit of, I actually want to hear AJ, because I imagine that AJ was the integrator in this whole story. And I love the beaming smile that you have in your face. You're like, yeah, he was. Will you share? Because I bet that there's a lot of people in the kaleidoscope as well. They have, I mean, when you say G-spot, right, that is the Grafenberg spot. Scientists are still trying to figure out what the hell is going on there. It's determined that you wind up having, a lot of different pieces and parts that converge. Their sensory perceptors converge right there in that one particular location. You might hear the G-spot as like, that's her pleasure place. And that's what that you want to hit the G-spot, right? If we're going to be like kind of raw about how you want to have sex. And for a lot of women, they are really confused by that because they have never experienced a vaginal orgasm or a G-spot orgasm or something like that. Well, people or Freud in particular was the one that said that this was the more mature. He kind of ranked orgasms and he wound up putting that one as the most mature, which makes a lot of women feel like they are not enough because they've never experienced it. Like what you guys are about to go into and explain is going to put a lot of clarity, I think, on all of that misunderstanding. Yeah. Let's step away from trying to understand exactly what it is and instead look at what it does.
can I share first before he'll go into the details of it?
100%.
This is the block, and this was my block, is that most women are control freaks and they're not willing to surrender. So if you're not having orgasm, it's because you're not willing to let go and surrender. And that was me. I mean,
Yes.
I had orgasm, but most people think they know G-spot orgasm, and this is not what we're talking about. I mean, I would say 99% of you that if you think you know G-spot orgasm, what we're talking about, it's not. We're talking 30 minutes. And so it's at a level where you're gushing, ejaculating, where you think you're going to die. It's that
one, right?
Yeah, that's what we're talking
about. Yes. It's that one.
You think you're going to die.
Yay, everybody, let's do it. There's a button in your vagina. You're going to think you're going to die, and then there's some next level shit.
Next level shit. So that's a block, though, where we're not willing to surrender. And that's what, for many people, for many women, that's what prevented me from up leveling, because the way that we create effortless affluence, the way we connect to higher self, is through surrender, complete, utter surrender of the self to higher self.
Preach.
Like, I'm not in charge anymore. You're in charge. To me. And so that's why it's so powerful. Okay.
Yeah. It is literally one of the best things on the face of the planet in terms of activating women and men too. I mean, or partners. I mean, it is amazing the energy transfer.
Did you feel powerful in that process?
Yeah, it was beautiful because the way we have it set up, right? It's all about her pleasure. So it makes it very relaxed because you're not concerned about your pleasure. It's just all about her pleasure.
It's a sacred container, so he's really just the facilitator. It's all about the woman.
Yeah. When you think about the woman, I mean, just like a tiny side note is that most women would go, oh no, I couldn't have it. You're wrapped up in your head and you're like, what if it's all about me and I'm supposed to feel this pleasure and I just don't?
Yeah. So it's really, it was powerful just from having that container to then explore her, it's all about her pleasure. And then when that's the vision, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, for a man to just really kind of dive into the woman's body that way is very powerful. And at the same time, you're seeing this pleasure that you're helping manifest. And so, yeah, as a guy, you're like, yes, this is so awesome.
You're the man.
Yeah.
You're Superman.
I know, but it's funny that you say pleasure, but you say you feel like you're going to die. So that's a very interesting dynamic there.
The first couple times you think you're going to die. You think you're going to pee. You think you're going to crap, because it's so intense. But once you learn your body, then it's not like that. Then it's just.
And trust your body.
And you trust your body and you know what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like you're going to die. It feels amazing. Let's just go there.
Right. I'm going to pretend like I'm not turned on by this conversation.
No pretending, be your authentic self.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it's a serious workout.
Yeah, you should show he had to get in shape for that because it could create like tendonitis and stuff.
It's all in the wrist. Got a carpal tunnel, got a stiff hand. Be like, why are you holding your arm funny, AJ? It's that G-spot massage. It gets me every time.
And I want to share, for me, I think one of the things I learned through this whole process, so being together for, almost 20 years, I built up a lot of resentments and, whatever patterns we had in our sex life, and I never talked about anything. So I own, I never communicated. I thought he was just supposed to read my mind. And there was a lot of stuff, I was very, how do you want to explain it?
Active.
I was very sexually active. He met me. He asked for a table dance before we
puts into context.
Right? So I had this very, very worldly life, and then I left that life, got married, went back to school, and we went back to the church of my upbringing, the Mormon church. All that shut down.
Yeah.
So he thought he married this hot chick, and all shut down, safety, security, the Esther Perel. And I never discussed anything. And so part of this process also, when you're in the sacred session, It's you own your own pleasure. And I know you talk about that, Alexa. This pleasure's for you. You own your pleasure. You claim your pleasure. And this is very much the same in manifesting. Taking responsibility. We're the author. We're the generators of our pleasure. We're the generators of what we're creating consciously in this reality. So that was a very, like, a mind shift for me to own my pleasure.
Well, yeah. It was really, one of the things that we do is at the beginning of the session is we have, you know, the women, you know, command us to begin. So.
And you could say stop at any time.
Absolutely. The safe word is pineapple.
Yeah.
What was that?
I'm totally kidding. I said my safe word is pineapple.
Pineapple, okay.
I'm totally kidding. No. You know, there's an interesting, a quick interesting point that I'd like to make too, is that when you claim your own pleasure, to make sure that, or to have this deep understanding that by standing up for your pleasure and claiming that does not mean that it's at the expense of another's. So just because it's all about you doesn't mean it's all about you. Just because you're receiving the majority of the attention, because you are receiving this, does not mean that the person who is giving is not overjoyed in the process. Because they are also feeling that energy. It's coming through you into them, and it's also helping them to expand and them to reach those higher levels. And that is something that I think for a lot of women as well, all they do is give all the time. They have a hard time doing that receiving thing. But then at this point, they also think that if I don't give to you, if you don't get your end goal, then I suffer. You know what I mean? Or if I have to achieve mine, then maybe you suffer, but that's not the case.
Well, you know, and then, you know, it's really beautiful. I'm glad the way you articulated that, because the next level is when you have a container that you've said, okay, what are some of the things you want to manifest? And so when she's going into this amazing state and the energy, you can just feel it. It's like the surge of energy is happening. And then you start, you know, helping anchor in, you know, affirmations or whatever she wants.
Whether it's your $1 million business, whatever it is that you're creating. Because at that time for the woman, your whole brain, everything is lit up. And so there's no resistance. A lot of times, you know, we can say affirmations over and over, but if you have something that's contradictory, it'll repel it. And so we'll usually have about 5 affirmations that, okay, what are we creating right now? So we use this as a way to create and call in. And what's so powerful is that when he's next to me, and let me just, to paint the picture, I mean, the man's fully clothed. The facilitator, it's not a making love session. It is like, it's like like you're getting a massage, right? And then afterwards you meditate and connect to higher self. But in this process, it's like time collapses. I see him in higher self. It's like the cosmos, or you're connected in the cosmos. It's
next level shit.
It's next level. It's next level. I mean, you don't need to take drugs to get there. Like, this is so friggin' powerful. It is the best thing on the planet.
Love
I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and say I do concur with all of the above, and I will also say this. And I've never been in a space, you know, within my community or anything where I've shared. I don't know if you noticed this, but I share very vulnerably when I tell my story of my past and maybe a little bit of my current, but not typically my present. It's usually past and what I've learned in hindsight. I don't just go like, this is my sex life. You'll never really see me say things like that or put it out there. Or I'll say, I don't adopt monogamy. Like, you'll just see me say something kind of aloof, but you really don't know how I live my life. So I'll speak a little bit from a personal experience here, which I don't do very often, but the whole reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is all, if I trace it back, it's my first G-spot massage. The whole reason this is even happening. And if you read the book Vagina, I don't know if it's Naomi Wolf, and she was completely and totally and utterly fascinated by these extreme bursts of creativity that women were having, but they were having it after these like mind-blowing sexual experiences. And there was like they couldn't figure out how it was achieved. And then sometimes those partners had no idea what they had done in that time. You know what I mean? So there was, you know, she talks a lot about it in that book. And that was kind of my first aha moments, where I remember there was an individual who I am still in a lot of ways in a relationship with today, that it was one of these moments where I thought I was going to be super duper liberated, and I was just going to like empower my sexuality. It had been a long time since I'd, had any sexual activity. I was brand new. I was still a crew member at that time, and I was on a ship, and, we started flirting, this guy and I, and he had just gotten on board. And it was like the second day he was on board, and we'd been talking kind of frequently. And I'm not telling you, I mean, seriously, every woman's going to experience this differently with each man that they come in contact with. But this was one of those individuals that exudes, no matter what he exudes, it's my exact polar opposite in an interesting way. I used to call it alpha swag, like extreme masculinity, but it was masculinity that pulled me into my femininity, which I'm very rigid. And a lot of times men will say like, I'm overly controlling, or I'm too much of whatever. But to be in the presence of someone that makes me feel the opposite naturally, I don't have to force it. And I knew that right away. So when he said, here's my cabin number, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And then I was kind of like, fuck it, I'm just going to go. I'm going to be a big girl and I'm going to go. and a freaking stranger, I submitted to the idea. I submitted to him naturally with the way that he, his presence and everything. Beautiful. And after everything was all said and done, I was like, holy fuck. Holy shit. Seriously, I didn't know what to do with it. I kind of in a way became addicted to it. And I thought he was just that way with all women he'd ever been with. And, now so many, almost over a year actually has gone by. And he was like, no, Alexa, like you not that I'm trying to tell you were special, but those times when we were together, I'd never seen that before. He just tapped into something. I completely relinquished and surrendered to it. And, it's when you say you feel like you're going to die. Yes. And you feel like it's a workout, your entire body starts to convulse and you're not sure what's happening. And at first you just want to control it back down so that you can put yourself in that nice, pretty box and be there and do your thing. But you have zero control, and it just comes out of you, and the noises that you make and the experiences that you feel and the place that your mind goes, and the world just falls away and you're left with you and whatever that vastness is. And the crazy thing was that it was a stranger. So for people sometimes to think that you have to have this deep connection with the person that is the facilitator, that's also not true, because I hear other sex coaches and people who do the sex thing, and they're talking about yoni massage, or they're talking about G-spot massage, and they are talking about how the person who's going to have it, and it's usually couples, and how she needs to surrender to him, and she needs to trust him. And for someone who's a single, it seems like this is not going to happen for me because that's a stranger, right? It seems the way that the picture is painted is that it's got to be like a long-term coupled relationship. But that I am living, breathing, walking, talking proof that is not necessary. And that it can happen literally for anyone. I truly believe that type of orgasm, that type of experience is absolutely 100% possible for everyone. The amount of liquid that comes out, I don't know. The gushing that occurs, I don't know. Some people a lot, some people a little, but I still think that it's possible for everyone.
All the women that I've done it on.
Yeah. For sure. That's one of the things is we've actually opened up a program for single women. That's
beautiful.
Sessions, like VIP intensive, where you come to Costa Rica, because it's so, you don't always have that partner, and it's so powerful to be able to elevate.
Yeah.
I love that. And then to hear AJ say, on all the women, right? You guys have been married for 20 years. And then for someone who might be in a coupled relationship, that's like, oh my God, did he just say all the women? And she's sitting there and she's okay with this? Newsflash, yes. Just because you touch someone's genitals doesn't mean that all of the binds of your relationship have just gone out the fucking window, guys. It's 2017, right?
Sexuality, and it's also elevating to, it's like.
I bet it's such a turn on to watch him be able to facilitate other people.
Not to share that,
Yeah, it's the most powerful gift. I think a man can give a woman besides his heart. It is amazing to see that sexual energy just
we're powerful women.
Yes.
We are so powerful, and so to be able to unleash that unleash that power, that creative energy. Even just as you're talking, Alexa, like I could feel this energy, right?
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Well, and it also just elevates, I think for me, that's where, like I said, seeing my supernova, this goddess, you know, the divine feminine, it's the most amazing energy. We're just along for the ride, and we're swirled in there too, the masculine to keep some balance, but it's amazing. It really, for me, it just put women on a different level, my understanding of the role.
Yeah, all of that resonates on such a deep level for a variety of reasons, because I had these wild experiences before I had terms for them, before I knew what was happening. And then later, you know, down the line when I've made this my business, but the thing is that this business came out of those experiences and sharing. And then people eventually are like, you need to do this all the time. You need to talk about this all of the time. You know what I mean? So now all of these things, what is it?
I've been learning, like anal sex and like all these penis massage and, you know, so thank you for all that you're sharing.
Oh yes.
We did that last week. It was like awesome.
Did you do the massage?
Penis massage, yeah.
Did you read the questions in the kaleidoscope, the one where I talked about the blowjobs, or was that based off of the video? That was based off of Layla Martin's videos. So I've written about it before, and that was again before I really knew anything about it. I was doing these tantric practices, or tantric, you know, because tantra is a way of life, of course, I understand, but you know, in this context, we're talking like sexuality. I've been doing these things since I had that incredible, you know, G-spots, you know, kind of the orgasm. Typically we'll use words like squirting orgasm or gushing orgasm, something like that, or waterfalls, or people will use that to describe it, but it's more than that. It's with intention. This is very different than just like having a very wet orgasm. Like this is with a lot of intention. This is very consciously, this is next, like I said, this is next level shit. Okay.
Yes. Next level
so shit. I don't want like the lower level shit to get blended with I don't want you to go, oh yeah, I do that every Saturday. You know, I'm telling you, you don't. Okay. Yeah. There's a little bit of my New Orleans coming out right there. You can tell that I'm home. Oh geez. But yeah, I don't remember what I was saying.
Yeah.
So comfortable. All of that.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best. I mean, it's the best feeling. I think that to just give just ultimate pleasure, and then to see the level of pleasure, you know, it's just, in terms of feeling like a man, I don't think I know of any other thing that makes me feel more like a man than Megan doing that.
And it's so like, I'm gonna say he looks different, because you're in high, but there's a different aura that's like, I see him before he was ever in this body, like his essence.
I love that.
And then the other thing, like we'll use this tool, like before I go on stage, before I speak at an event, before I'm about to launch a program or whatever that is, because, you know, our little self, we get scared and we make all these stories up or whatever, but when we're in higher self, we are unstoppable. And so, you know, I did this, I spoke at an event last year, and it was just getting into that place and then going on stage and having nothing prepared and just entirely channeling and speaking from higher self. It's such a powerful tool to step into that next level, to create your reality.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I feel my big vision is that the more of us that access these tools, the more of us that connect to higher self, that's how we shift the planet.
I agree. I always say that you change your vibration and your energy and the level that you play at, and you essentially wind up changing the vibration and the energy of every person that you come in contact with, and it's a ripple effect, and that changes the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it sounds very profound and it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but I promise you it is the truth. Why? Because it feels good when you hear it. It feels good when you hear it, right? I am so in love with the both of you and everything that you are doing and achieving, and the world needs more of you. They do. So hopefully you are in the midst of you know, being able to train people in order to do it that way as well, and to continue spreading the message. And I think that I see you guys in that position where you're actually training people to do these things, you know, for each other and for others, so that it just keeps, you know, that ripple effect. You know,
we have a conscious coupling retreat in Bali. No, in Thailand. in the next year. And so that's
Okay.
teaching those tools to couples.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So what I would love to have from you guys is, I know that you have, this is your business. So I know that you probably have some, for me, because of my business is also online, like some landing pages and things like that have all of the information on it. It's like you go there and you just got all the information, and it has links in order to, sign yourself up or to get involved, ways to contact you guys directly so that, questions can be answered. And, I'll say this, like, for the community, if you have questions and you want to ask, Tera and AJ questions, I will go ahead and say this for them so that they don't have to, is that if you're really interested in what they are doing, yes, of course, the Freedom Collective, that's your private group or your community, absolutely get involved in that. But should you really be interested in what they have going on, then message them directly. If you're just going to ask them, like, how can I give her a better orgasm on, next Tuesday or something, like, come on now, just share that in the Kaleidoscope. You guys can talk amongst each other. But like those that are really, really ready for this next level shit, you're the ones that really need to get in touch with these guys. Because if you're playing at a lower field and you're just not quite ready there to make the shifts and changes, whether that be energetically, personal decisions, financially, whatever, take the steps that in order that you need to take in order to get to that point where you're ready to talk to these guys, because this is some next level shit. And I am so grateful that our AFES connections are starting to build these, these beautiful moments where we can, do things like this. I love that. I mean, AFES was so wonderful in so many ways. And this is one of them too, because, you guys getting to share what you have going on, what you're so passionate about, the opportunity for me to share it is spectacular. And so if it weren't for those crazy events, then, I wouldn't even know you guys. So thank you so much for all that you do. Thanks for this talk. Was there any last things that you want to share with the Kaleidoscope before we wrap up? Because I'll take all your links and I'll put them in the comments.
Yeah.
I'll put them in the write-up.
Gifts to raise your vibration and just some free energy clearing that people can just experiment with and see how if they resonate with it or whatever.
Absolutely.
Page, so
for the baby steps.
Love what you're doing, Alexa.
Thank
so
you.
Fun. I feel your love. I feel this energy. So can't wait to hang out with you in Jamaica.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be going to Jamaica. I don't see anything that is really preventing me at this point, but otherwise I'm like looking at this gorgeous place you have behind you. I'm like, come on now, hook a sister up. I would totally love to come play in the jungle with you guys. And that conversation in more ways than one, because now I want to know how to do these things too, not just for myself, but for others, because you don't have to have a man to do all of that integration stuff. You don't have to.
I've actually learned how to do it myself. They say it's not possible, but where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
The palm and then this, you're like,
I was like, seriously, I've got to figure this shit out. I'm so confused. So I'll go ahead and leave us off at that. All right, Kaleidoscope, get in touch with these guys. Click all over their links. And then, of course, you'll see them popping up, whether that be in the men's group, the women's group, or in the co-ed group here. AJ and Tera, thank you one more time.
Thank you. Bye.